Well, the league needed a bounce back, and they let McGuire and Sosa have that amazing summer. Now, here's the thing. To me, Sosa's not a Hall of Famer without the steroids, but Bonds is. I don't get the Schilling thing because he was great in big games. He'd be in for me.
But that's a writer's thing because they all hate him.
They hate his right wing views.
I mean,
but he belongs in there. I mean, I think there was ketchup on the sock, but nonetheless, he still beat us.
For me, the thing is that unless you can produce a list of pitchers that also were doing steroids against all these hitters that were doing steroids, it's very hard for me to take away. Yes, production increased. We knew that. Baseball knew that because we went years before they actually made steroids illegal. So baseball
wanted They wanted the sport to rebound, but a lot of power.
We knew it. Listen, Brady Anderson did not become a 50 home run hitter one year because he was doing strength and conditioning exercises.
He certainly did not.
All right. He was not eating, steaks and burgers. He was doing steroids. And
neither did Brett Boone, by the way.
Yeah.
Brett Boone was not a 40 homer guy.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys don't get mentioned for the Hall, and they shouldn't. And I agree.
Something was mentioned this week, though, and I'd love to know your opinion on this, and that is, what do you consider Cooperstown to really be? And it's a good question. Is it a museum of baseball, or is this like an award or honor you give these players after their career is over? Because if you think of it as a museum, there's no way the whole steroid guys should not be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. They dominated an era.
And if you're thinking of it that this is supposed to be an honor after their career is over, well, you know what? There's a lot of guys through the history of baseball that probably shouldn't be in there to begin with. But if you really look at it that way, it really opens up the discussion.
Well, I mean, listen, you just name a couple guys at the top of your head like Don Sutton, or Gaylord Perry, or Red Shannings, or any of those guys that are Hall of Famers, and you say to yourself, wow, were they ever dominant like Don Mattingly was for 5 years? Now, I know he didn't play long enough.
Right.
But Puckett only played great for 7 years, and that was long enough. And Mattingly's 5 were not. And I get it because Donnie baseball was a big part of our youth. And, he was the best on our teams that really didn't do anything. But we finished second a lot, Toronto or whoever they were going behind at that time. But I actually think it's a really interesting question because to me it's the latter. To me it's a museum for baseball.
Okay.
And to me it's a celebration of baseball because the reason why I say that is every girl that's in the All-American Girls Baseball League with all that stuff, are they all superstars? No, it's a shrine to the history of the sport.
Yeah.
And you can't have it one way and then the other.
Yeah. And if you're doing that, then all of these guys need to be in. And, listen, you can't argue with all their stats because their stats dwarf everybody else's. And if it means you need to put some kind of notation at the bottom of their plaque that says, by the way, this was in the 90s and 2000s when steroids was rampant and legal. Well, then that's what you got to do. But, the fact that you're going to have a Hall of Fame right now that is not going to have Bonds, is not going to have Clemens. When A-Rod's time is up, it's not going to have A-Rod either. Yeah. And to not have those three guys with their stats is just ridiculous.
Listen, I can live without Sosa. I can even live without McGuire. I can live without those guys. But the three you mentioned are the ones that stand out. And I know it's political, but there's no reason Curt Schilling isn't in either.
Oh, absolutely.
Curt Schilling did more than enough.
Absolutely.
I despise Curt Schilling.
Listen,
I despise the Red Sox. I despise everything Red Sox. I hate Big Papi. I hate all these guys because they broke my heart too many times, even though we broke theirs some too. But at the same time, there's no way these guys were not. They were not just good players. They were great in great spots.
Yeah.
And to me, that means something. Now, listen, I'm not saying Ray Knight's a Hall of Famer because he was great in the World Series in '86, and I'm not like going to go to that level. Or Todd Zeile had a good World Series in 2000. I'm not saying any of those type things, but these guys were like, Schilling wanted the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Listen,
and Bonds, you
we
didn't want to
hated
face him.
him.
They just kept walking him.
We couldn't stand him when he was on Arizona that year.
Oh,
When the Yankees
absolutely.
lost to them in the World Series between him and Randy Johnson. I mean, it was ridiculous.
And it really came down. Secretariat, Rafael Soriano hits the homer, and you're up the run, and you got Mariano coming in, and you think there's no way. And if they were just playing the infield normal depth, it's a pop up by Mark Grace. But no, it fell, it dropped, and we lost to Arizona, and it hurt a little bit.
I want to throw one thing a little off key at you.
All right, throw it.
So I know you guys don't do a lot of hockey.
No, but as football ends, we're going to be doing hockey and college basketball.
I got to throw something in there, and that's I'm a big Islander fan, as you know. And this week we lost Clark Gillies. 12 seasons in New York, 2 seasons at the end of his career in Buffalo. He was the Islander captain for 2 years before Potvin. I'm not sure everybody even realizes that.
Yeah, he was a special player.
He was the captain for 2 years, and Al Arbor wanted Potvin to be the captain, and he went to Gillies. And I saw the story documented during the week, and Gillies was like, "Yeah, let's make Potvin the captain." And you couldn't do that today with today's players.
Oh, the ego would fall apart with these guys,
right?
Dropped the gloves when he had to.
Yeah,
and did it well. By the way, he didn't really lose ever in a fight. He didn't fight unless he had to, but he fought well.
So I'll give you a couple of numbers, right? So 958 games he played, almost 1,000 games in the NHL, 319 goals, 378 assists, 697 total points, and over 1,000 penalty minutes.
He was a
And he played with two of the greats during those dynasty years. He played with Bossy and Trottier on the top line a lot of the time, especially the first 2 years. And, I will tell you, you probably remember this, but, that's my mom's favorite Islander of all time is Clark Gillies. She met him 3 different times. He signed her jersey one time, and she was like a little schoolgirl, my mom.
I remember that vividly. I remember setting up that you came to one of my work events once and with your mom to meet Clark Gillies.
Yeah, and
I remember that vividly, actually.
Definitely one of the Islander greats. Just wanted to throw that in at the end here. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing is about Gillies and about those Islander teams were amazing. B, you could say he played with Trottier and Bossy, and you're right. But I didn't see Cementhead Dave Semenko scoring a lot of goals with Curry and Gretzky. So let's not take away. I mean, Glenn Anderson might have had a little bit, but not nearly to the level of Clark Gillies, who had to not only play offense, but also had to play enforcer sometimes when somebody was going after Bossy in particular.
Listen, that's one of the prime reasons Arbor had him on that line was because he didn't want Bossy getting beat up too much. But when you have the ability to have almost 700 points in the NHL and have over 1,000 penalty minutes, you are a big time force with your fists as well as with your stick. I mean, I just want to mention it because he's one of those special guys. I mean,
absolutely.
His numbers in the rafters, and
we grew up in Queens, right, and which would be really territory where the Islanders and Rangers were kind of split. Especially we were kids during the Islander regime, right? We were between 80 and 83, 84. We were anywhere between the ages of 9 and 13. We were young, and our school was split. It was like half Islanders, half Rangers, and it was, and the Islanders were just better at that time. But there was something so special about watching those Islander teams, with Smith being just a jerk in the playoffs and just hitting people, and Potvin just being Potvin, and Bossy and Gillies and Nystrom and all those guys. It was just, I mean, you go to the third and fourth line and they just had skilled, gifted players, and Bill Torrey, and Al Arbor did a hell of a job getting those guys in place. But Clark Gillies at the young age of 67, really young age, and I know he was. I had heard that he was sick toward the end.
And the Olympics are coming up next month, obviously, but
next week.
If you talk about a 6-month stretch for any human being, I'm not even going to say player, but you take somebody like Ken Morrow, who wins the gold medal in Lake Placid, and then 4 months later is raising the Stanley Cup. I mean, that's Absolutely. A hell of a 6-month stretch, let me tell you.
Exactly. A kid that went to Bowling Green, not exactly known as the hockey mecca, even though they produced quite a few players. But nonetheless, he went to Bowling Green and he did that. I mean, listen, and as football ends and we start transitioning into college basketball and hockey more, we'll definitely talk more about it, and you'll definitely be on again with us.
Okay.
And, anything else you want to part with, my friend?
No, college basketball, here we come.
Absolutely. March Madness is a little over a month away. Listen, for those that don't know, I'm a college basketball junkie. I follow every conference. I'm that geeky guy that loves this sport. And we're in the heart of conference play, and it gets really exciting for me. And when I have football playoffs and college basketball going at the same time, I'm like a kid in the candy store. So a lot of fun talking with you tonight. A lot of good things coming up. Great football on Sunday. We hope that we have the same type of games we had last week where we had 4 nail biters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I expect big things. So Gino, I thank you for joining me, my friend.
Thanks for having me on. It was a great time.
And we're looking forward to seeing how Bill did in both the hula hoop competition and the 2-man luge. He'll be reporting back to us next week on that, as Powers likes to be in skin tight clothing and on top of another man. Whatever works for you. It makes him happy, and that's all that matters to me. So without further ado, our little sign off all the time is good night, Irene.
Good night, Irene.
That comes later. One day I'll explain where that comes from, G. But again, thanks for joining us. And Fantasy Fat Guys, follow us on Instagram, Fantasy Fat Guys _. Follow us on Facebook. Check us out. Check out the podcast at Spotify and anywhere else where you can upload a podcast. We try to have fun and try to bring a little fun back into sports. So thank you very much, everybody. And we're clear. Bye.